How about we install an aftermarket radio today? Let's get to it. This is what we're working on today, an 8th generation Honda Civic. This is the aftermarket radio we'll be installing today. Not sure who makes it or anything about it. Haven't even looked at it yet, but we'll check it out here in a little bit. Now this Civic still has the factory radio, so that's what we're going to be replacing today. And I believe this whole piece is going to be replaced with an entire unit. Sometimes they come where you just buy the plastic and then the radio would be separate. This, I believe, is all in one unit. We'll check it out here in a little bit. But in order to get our old radio out, we're going to have to remove some stuff. Now, we're going to pull this panel off first, but I guess I'll clean out that loose change that's in there. And then we got this contraption, most likely from the dealer. We're going to have to get that out of the way. All right, I got our loose change out. Now I'm just going to take a screwdriver and we'll just get this removed. Looks like it's just held in by 2 screws. I don't know exactly why the dealers install these. I have my theories. If you guys know for a fact what they are, let me know in the comments. But there, at least now it should be out of our way. I just set the screws back into place so we won't lose them. All right, we should be able to just snap this out. Fairly easy, just gotta be sure not to break any of the clips. And there we go, it's out. All right, we're gonna have to take this plastic trim piece out right here. To get it out, there should be 1 screw right there, so we'll have to pop that screw out, and then it's held by clips all the way around. And I'm aware we could just pop this piece out a little bit and try to separate it from the radio and work with this piece and the bottom piece in place, but in all honesty, in my opinion, it only takes like a minute or less to pop that one out, take the screw out, and pop this one out. And so much easier, so much more room to work rather than leave them in place. Take a chance on breaking things right here because it's really tight and moving it around. And just the fact that it's a pain to have it in the way. So that's why I take the minute just to pull these 2 panels out. All right, we should be able to get under here and pop this out. And we'll go ahead and lower that down, maybe pull it out and get it up out of our way. And we have to disconnect this back here. I'll show you in a second. That little plug right there, just press down on the tab. Whoop. Press down on that tab right there and unplug it. Just be careful not to break it. But there's our trim piece right there. Now, if I remember correctly, underneath our radio in this opening right here, there should be a little plastic cover right here. So we'll have to pop that cover off. And there should be some fasteners underneath here that are going up and holding our radio in place. So we'll have to get those out. All right, we should be able to just use a little screwdriver here and pop this out. That side and over here. Come on. Whoops, there we go. Alright, if we look up under there, hopefully we can see the bolts holding this radio in. Alright, well there's one right there on the left. On the right, it looks like the bolt's missing, so we're only going to have to deal with one of them. Now it's just going to be held on with a series of clips all the way around. So we'll just have to pop it off all the way around without breaking any. All right, we'll just try to pop it out. Being careful not to break the clips. And there we go. Now I just got to reach around there and disconnect everything. All right, let's see what we got here. We got this one, and we got this one. And we got a couple over here that I can't quite see. All right, we got one on the bottom here. And we got these over here. That one wanted to fight. All right, looking at the back of our radio, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 connectors you got to disconnect. And yeah, that fought me a little bit. You just have to press the side and get it out. But these are pretty standard connectors. Just pinch the tab and pull them off. Let's go ahead and get this radio out of the box, see what we're working with. Okay, let's take a look at the unit out of the box. There it is right there. Actually, it looks pretty nice. That's a pretty darn big screen. And the back here is definitely smaller than our OEM unit, but that looks pretty decent. And it looks like we get all the adapters and wiring that we're going to need for the install. All right, looking at our two units side by side, the color match is pretty decent. It's not an exact match on this aftermarket unit, but it's not too bad. We are going to have to move some stuff over from our old unit over to the new one. We got to move our HVAC controls. We got to move our hazard button. And we got to move our vent over. I see that they did not make, well, it should have been right here. They didn't make a provision for our airbag passenger light. So we're going to have to deal with that. So yeah, in true aftermarket fashion, they got to screw something up. But we're going to have to move this stuff over before we install this in the car. Now, before we move stuff over, let's just do a little bit of a test fit here. I'm not going to snap it into place, but that doesn't look too bad. It looks like everything should line up once I press it down. So I think we'll be okay to start switching stuff over. It's definitely not going to be exactly the same, but if you want the modern conveniences of touchscreen, you definitely got to change things out. So let's go ahead and get the stuff moved over. All right, if we look at our old unit compared to our new unit, we can see that these clips right here have to be moved over. So there's a bunch of white ones, and those will go down here. And then we have some metal ones up here that are going to have to be transferred over here. So that's what I'm going to do next. All right, I'm just going to use some screwdrivers and just pop these off. Usually if we pop one side, just push it out a little bit on these white ones. Do the same thing with the other side. And then we can kind of work it up without breaking them. Just got to be careful with them. You can see we just pop them off like that. And I'll just work my way around and get these white ones off. To get these off, it's this little tab in the middle that's holding them. So a lot of times if you reach around underneath, beside it like that, you can pry it up just a little bit and get it off. And then you'll just have to bend things back a little bit to put them on. Just take your time. I got all the clips off except for this metal one right here in the middle. Our HVAC unit's a little too close to it, so rather than take a chance on bending or breaking anything, I'll wait till I get this off. So now we'll just take everything off. We'll get that one last. We'll go ahead and take the vent off first. It's got 3 screws. We'll get our airbag indicator off next. Yeah, can't get my drill in there. Yeah, how about we use that out of the old driver set? We'll go ahead and get this next. Now, for the HVAC unit, we're going to have to take the knobs off the front. Alright, we'll just turn this over. Yeah, we got to pop these off. You can see they're already kind of beat up, but typically, see which end is thinner. We can just get behind here. This might not be thin enough. Nope, it's not. I'm going to have to get something else, but we'll just have to get behind there and pop them out. Alright, the HVAC unit is held in with 4 screws, 2 on each side, so we just need to pop those out. And there we go. Now, I'll just go ahead and get this final clip off, and then we can start moving everything over to our new unit. Okay, I'm just going to reinstall our stuff back into our new unit. We'll do the clips and everything else, with the exception of our passenger airbag indicator. We're not going to be able to install this on here. We'll plug this back into the car so our airbag light stays off, but this is something you need to be aware of. This just tells you, that the airbag has been turned off if you have something in the seat that's too light. Basically, it turns those off if in case you have, a small child. It's sensing a small child. So honestly, if you have small kids, put them in the back seat. Don't put small kids in the front seat, but just be aware. You won't be able to tell if the airbag has shut off because this will be hidden behind. So something to be aware of when you do stuff like this. All right, I'll put these clips back. If I remember correctly, the little tab right there, that one, they went to the inside on these three right here towards our HVAC unit. And the two on the outside, I believe they went like this, that the tab went to the outside. Hopefully, well, if I get it wrong, then we'll have to redo it. And we just got to snap these white ones into place. It looks like, why'd they put a little extra thing on there? We're going to have to shave, we're going to have to cut those off. And we already have to start improvising and adapting and overcoming. See, this one's flat, this one's not, and this one's not. It's got a little extra tab right there. And that's preventing our white clips from going all the way down. This one's fine. We can snap that one all the way down, no problem. But these two won't stay in place, so we're just going to have to nip those off. Well, let's see if they fit. Not quite. This one is probably okay. Yeah, that one's okay. This one we got to file down a hair. Let's see if that works. Alright, now we're good. Okay, I took some foam from the box that the radio came in, and we'll go ahead and set our HVAC unit in place. That way it doesn't hit down below. Otherwise, these protrude just a little bit and will hit my bench and will kind of fight me putting these screws back in. So we'll just get everything lined up, and of course, make sure that it's facing the correct direction. And we'll go ahead and put the 4 screws in. Yeah, they're definitely tighter going back into this brand new plastic. Just make sure that they bottom out so your unit is tight and it's not wobbly. All right, we'll put our hazard button in. Just make sure it kind of locks in place. There's some locator tabs there. Make sure it's going the right direction. So it looks good. Now I'll just put the screws in. All right, let's see. Hopefully this fits. Alright, seems to be lining up okay. Might have to press it over just a little bit, but it looks like it's going to be alright. Now let's see how it looks. Alright, not too bad. Everything looks pretty good. We just got to put our knobs back on. Like that. And this one, let's see, should be like that. There's a little tab right there. You got to kind of line it up. Well, there's our unit all put back together. The finish on here, everything lined up pretty darn good. Pretty much looks factory. Button works. This is slightly smaller because this is a little bit bigger, so this hangs over just a hair, but the air should flow through there, no problem. We can move our vent around easily, so that's not a problem. We will have to deal with our airbag passenger cutoff light though, because we don't have anywhere to put it here. So I'm gonna have to go and do something with this. All right, I went ahead and plugged in all of our wiring harnesses that came with this thing. Pretty self-explanatory, although the instructions that came with it are not very good, but they seem to just plug in. It doesn't look like you can mix things up. So that's everything plugged in. These 3 right here will get plugged into the vehicle. So they'll just plug straight in, so we don't have to do any wire splicing for that. All of these right here we're not going to be using. We will be using this for the external mic so you can make phone calls. It did come with a external GPS for navigation to help it be a little more accurate. We have two USBs that are plugged in. I believe one's for data transfer and the other one is for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And it does have a backup camera system, and it came with, where is it, a backup camera right here. Now, I don't know how feasible it is to install this on the vehicle. I'll have to look and see what I need to do. In order to hook this up, it did come with a wire, so that this is pretty easy. You just plug these in like that, and then right here we got a red and a black wire. Red goes to positive, black goes to negative on the reverse lights on the vehicle. So we will have to tap into the reverse light so that this unit will know when we go into reverse, so it can turn the camera on. But to plug it in up here, it'll be the same. We plug this in right here, and then we have this wire. Now this is our signal wire that, you know, tells it when to turn on. Right here where this wire plugs in, we have these two wires here, and you would think, oh, this goes to one of those. No, apparently it goes to, where is it? I just had it here a second ago. This pink one right here that's labeled back. So I guess for back camera or reverse or whatever, but that goes to that. So that's how everything's going to be wired up. So we have to make one connection here. Then after that, we can just plug it in and install it. And I'll probably just plug it in and install it and see if the thing works before I start wiring everything up. But obviously we have to, you know, put all this stuff properly so it looks nice and professional. And then, yeah, I got to see if we can even get this rear view camera back there, because just the way this thing sits, I'm not sure if it's going to work. But anyway, that's where I'm at right now. As far as the cutoff indicator light for our passenger airbag, if we leave it unplugged, we're going to set a code and turn on the airbag light. So we don't want to do that. If we leave it plugged in, everything will work properly. We just won't be able to see this indicator unless we somehow stuck it out where we could actually see it, which doesn't seem to be really feasible in this setup. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug it in, and we're just going to leave it sit behind. There's plenty of room in there. We'll leave it sit behind. And I put this foam on there so it won't rattle, because otherwise it'll sit there and rattle and drive you crazy. So that's how we're going to solve this problem. Now we need to connect these, but I want to be able to completely disconnect this camera from the rest of the unit in case something goes on with it or we can't install it. So rather than hardwire it, we're going to go ahead and put a quick disconnect on here. Okay, now we can make quick connections. So we'll connect the camera lead like that, and this one we can connect like that, and now we can easily disconnect it if we need to. So I realize having this one open, there's probably going to be power on this if you put it in reverse. So if this ever gets disconnected, then it needs to be disconnected in the back. But I don't like leaving open ends on the harness side, so that's why this is the side that's getting covered or shrouded. So there is a method to my madness, but anyway, now we can connect it and disconnect it quickly. All right, we'll get this plugged in. So yeah, that can just sit right there, and that should be okay. Now I'm going to set this in place and plug it in, make sure everything works, and I'll probably power up the reverse camera and make sure that it works too. I want to make sure everything's working before I start wiring everything in. But because basically we have all our plugs right here, I should be able to plug it in and make this thing work. Now let's see if this thing works. Fires up, that's good. Yeah, it works. I'll have to figure out how the heck to use this. I have no idea. Home? Okay. So we'll, I guess we'll see if we can't get this rear view camera or backup camera to work. Okay, in order to see if our reverse camera works, we're going to simulate putting the car into reverse. And so I'm just going to use the power probe to supply power and ground to our camera, and that should supply a signal as soon as I hit power, and the car should think that we're in reverse. So let's test it out. All right, I'll just hit power, and if we don't blow stuff up, hopefully it pretends that it goes into reverse. Actually, let's kill that tone. And there we go. See if we can put it the correct way. All right, I think it works. Take power off, goes away. Hit power again. Takes a second for it to recognize it, but there you go, it works. All right, I think I'll go ahead and see if we can't get this thing installed in the back. All right, here's how I'm going to mount the backup camera. It seems like the best position is right here, right above the license plate. It's really the only feasible position without having stuff hanging out everywhere. So I figured we can mount it to this piece of trim here, which you can pop off. It's just held on by 4 clips, or 5 clips actually, and a bolt that goes through the lock. In order to get to that, I just took the 4 plastic clips that are holding this, popped it out. That gave me access to the back side so I could get the bolt and squeeze these clips so that we're not breaking them. So now if we look at it, it sits like that, and so I went ahead and drilled a hole. Yeah, I know, cringe, but that's the only way we could get a nice clean installation. But I drilled a hole right here, and I drilled a hole right here. And unfortunately, because this camera has large RCA jack type plugs, you need to drill a pretty big hole. In order to make these be able to fit, I had to drill a 9/16 inch hole. That way we could put one through, and then the second one, you can see it barely goes through with the wire in there. I tried a 1/2 inch hole and it wouldn't work. But this way, we can put it through like this. Come on. And then just kind of fish it up. And I already pre-drilled some holes right there, and then it'll mount like that underneath. And then we should be able to fish the wire in through here, and then I will just run the wiring through here just like the original factory stuff is. So that's how I'm going to mount this backup camera. Now the wire is going to go right through this hole, but it's going to be very, very close to this. And so this is plastic. It shouldn't have a problem like rubbing or anything like that. This on the hand is metal, and although I filed it so that it's not sharp so we can rub our finger on there, we still don't want a wire rubbing right on metal. So to deal with that, I have this little grommet set here, and it looks like this one right here should fit pretty good. Let's see if we can pop it in there. Oh yeah, that should work perfect. So our wiring can go through there, it'll be protected, and that'll keep it from rubbing. So I think that'll work. Now with this in place, there's no way these RCA plugs are going to go through that. But I should be able to take it off and put it through like this. Yeah, that should work. And then we'll fish everything through, and then I should be able to snap that into place with the wire already through it. So I think that'll work. Now this backup camera has some adhesive that I can put on there, just a little sticker type deal. So in order to make sure that sticks, I'll just use a little bit of wax and grease remover and just hit this right here where the sticker's going to go, and the bottom of our camera here. That'll help it stick. That should work. What do you think? It'll be all right? See if we can get this bolt line back up. The attachment point on here moves around, so you got to get that bolt lined up. If you snap it in place, it might be off and you might not be able to get it back in. But let's see, is there any reason we can't snap that in? I don't think so. All right, let's pop it in. All right, what do you think? Should work? Now I did already dry fit it with the license plate in place, but yeah, that'll work. We got plenty of clearance. There's some screws on the side right here where we can loosen and tighten, and we can adjust the camera up and down if necessary. Now to plug it in, of course, we're just going to do this. Plug it in. This will be run back in there. But these two leads have to connect to our reverse light right here. So we're going to have to tap into the wires there. And of course, we don't have much lead, and this is going to be up here. So I'm going to have to run wires through here back over to our reverse light and tap into it there. So that's how we're going to have to wire this thing. And of course, this wire is going to have to go underneath the trim and come back up in here nice and clean. Yeah, what do you think? We'll just leave it like that. Now, here's the connection for our reverse light. We got two wires there. We got a black one and it looks like a brown one. So we need to see which one's power and which one's ground. We can go look at a wiring diagram, but to know for sure, let's just grab the power probe and do some testing real quick. All right, for safety, I went ahead and chopped the rear wheel so we don't get run over, but I'll go ahead and have an assistant put it into reverse, and then we'll check those two wires. Hopefully without getting run over. Okay, foot on the brake. Parking brake is on, right? Go ahead and put it in reverse. Okay, brown or black wire gonna be ground. Brown wire gonna be a power. Doesn't carry enough current to turn the light on our power probe, but you can see we got 13.5 volts. So black ground, brown is gonna be our power. Went ahead and tapped into our reverse lights using heat shrink butt connectors. So now we have positive and a negative for our camera. I put quick connectors on here so they can be disconnected. So now I just got to run leads, power and ground all the way up to right here. And there it is, put back together and plugged in. I plugged the camera in. Just use some test leads to connect our wires. Let's go make sure that this camera works fully connected to our reverse light. And looks like it's working. Of course, we're just looking up at the garage door. But yeah, that's cool, it's working. And I do believe all this stuff is adjustable. We should be able to adjust these lines back and forth and narrow and all that stuff, and we can adjust the camera if necessary. So that's good. I just want to make sure it works, and it does. Now it's just a matter of pulling panels, and I'm going to run the wiring everywhere that the factory wiring is going. So I'll run my wiring along here and down here. Same thing over here. We'll try to run it everywhere we have factory wiring going. We're going to try to run ours in the same place. The wiring's all done. Sorry I didn't film it, but it's a little bit tedious and I wanted to get this thing finished. But I'll go ahead and show it to you. Of course, there's our reverse wiring right there. I got it pinned to the factory wiring coming over there. And then for our backup camera, I have it right here, and then it comes up and it's pinned to our factory wiring right there. And so they both join right here, and then it comes up right here, goes around up under here, all attached to the factory wiring, and then it goes right to our camera. Of course, I have the connections right here so I can disconnect them easily if I want to. And if we need to remove this camera, we just disconnect it here and we can unscrew it and take it out. And continuing inside the cab of the vehicle, of course, I just pulled this trim piece off, and our reverse camera is pinned right here. And then I just popped this loose and was able to fish it through there, and we'll keep going over there by the front door. And over here by the driver's door, I pulled all the trim and I got the wire pinned right here to our factory wiring harness. Of course, I opened this up and have the wire there. I opened this one up, have the wire running along there, and then it's pinned right here, and then pinned all the way along up to the radio. So it's not going anywhere, and it's about as good as you can get, I think, as far as for a factory look. Once we put it all back together, you'll never know this wiring is here. For our GPS antenna unit, I'm gonna mount it right here, right in the front. Hopefully you can see it right there. So it's gonna be sitting up there, and then I just have the wire tucked in right there. I haven't fully tucked it in yet, but I popped the tweeter out and just dropped the wire through there, and then pinned it underneath to the wiring, to the factory wiring, and then came over here to the radio. So it's all clean and out of the way, and you won't really be able to see it except for just a little bit right in the front. Hopefully you can see without the glare, but you'll just be able to see it a little bit right in the front there. But it, in my experience, putting it right there, it picks up the GPS as nice and gives a good accurate location. As far as this USB plug, we're going to need access to it for Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Now, I did hook my Android phone up to it, and I had no problem using Android Auto, both wired and wirelessly. So that's a nice little feature that you can actually use it both ways. But I tested it out, it works good, but I still want access. Even though we can do wireless, I still want access to the plug right here. So we'll just leave it about right there. And what I like to do on these Civics, this little cover goes down here like this. This is what we popped off to get those screws or bolts out. So I like to just put a hole in it. Now you got to put a fairly large one to get that thing through, and we'll just pop the wire through there, or that cable. And just like we did in the back, I'm going to put a rubber grommet on there. Now this grommet will not go around that without putting a little slice in it. So we'll put a slice in it, put it over the wire, run it through, and then I'll pop this grommet inside here, and that'll give it a nice clean look, and it won't move around as much. All right, let's get this thing buttoned up. We'll go ahead and tighten up the bolt that goes to the key back here, the lock mechanism. And we won't forget to plug it in. All right, these old clips are really flared out, and they don't want to go in there, even kind of manipulating them. I'm not going to mess around with them. We're just going to put brand new ones in. For our trim piece here that covers this, when you're taking these off, I recommend take this clip and pull it out from the bottom down here. And then once you do that, it'll loosen it up, and then you can kind of just maneuver it and pull it out. You see this one stayed in, and it's recessed in there, so it's really difficult to dig out without really dinging up the plastic. So better just leave it alone like that, and we're going to put it back the same way. We'll just snap it into place right there, and then the other clip, we'll just put it right back. And now we're back to the way it was. Now we'll set our side piece for the trunk back into place. And these clips are two pieces, and they also kind of have a screw head. At least the three over here. Then there's a couple more that are just standard clips. And this type of clip, actually there's two of them. One goes here, one goes right around the corner. This last clip goes right here. Gonna have to make sure it's lined up. And this trim piece goes right here. It's held on by 4 clips, and then this piece just kind of snaps in the middle. When you're reinstalling it, it's easier to pop this out. You don't have to pop this out when you take it off, but it's easier to pop it out when you put it back in. Because we want to get it under this rubber strip. If you just pop it back on, it's going to be on top of it, and then you have to fight with it. And we may have to anyway, but what we're going to try to do is get it under this lip to begin with. And then snap it down into place. Like that. So we're not fighting it. And then we can just snap this in. Then we'll just go ahead and put our floor piece back in, and it's held on by 2 clips right in the front there, right at that threshold. So I'm just going to go around and snap that down. Alright, we'll just get this lined up best we can. Of course, we want these to line up with those holes, both of them. Just like that. And we'll just flip this over, and the trunk is done. Now for this piece, obviously it goes right there, held on by 4 clips, similar to what you'd find on a door panel. So we just put it in place and pop them down. Hang on, we got Fast and Furious going by. All right, but before I set that into place, I'm gonna have to snap this back. Of course, we wanna make sure this is out of the way, but we should be able to pop this back in, and I'll have to pop it in over there. But yeah, I feel that it's clipped now. There's a couple clips that I popped out to get the wire through there. But now we can go ahead and snap this into place. All back into place. Let's make sure they're all the way clipped down. Now we'll get these snapped into place. Just make sure, if you're using these, that your wiring is going through the opening, so we're not pinching it. These things can be a little bit of a pain to get open and get locked back right. Come on, you can do it. Alright, that looks like it's in. And hopefully you can see there's a clip right down there. Gotta pop that in. And that should be all of the clips for this piece right here. And we just have to get this over the top. Like that. And then this one, same thing. These close in like that. Just want to make sure we're not pinching any wires. There's a lot of garbage right here, right where the pieces need to go back. I guess I'll go ahead and grab our vacuum and get it cleaned up. Hey, does that mean I get to keep the quarter right here? All right, we won't keep it. Okay, this piece goes here, just held on by a couple clips. We just got to make sure we get everything lined up before we try to snap those clips home. Come on, go home. There we go. Now it's in. Yeah, we'll just get this back in place. All right, we'll get our little footrest put back into place like that. It's just secured on these 2 little posts right here with some clips, and sometimes they don't hold very well. They're broken, beat up. This one was like barely hanging on before, so hopefully we can get it reattached. If we use our carpet as a guide, we can kind of tell where it's supposed to go. All right, that's probably as good as it's going to get. Now we'll get this trim piece back in. It's held on by a bunch of clips just like the rest of these things are. You can see like this, and that one's been replaced. Sometimes, especially these bottom ones, will get caught down in here. If they are, just pry them out, put them back in, just like a door panel. But we're going to put this back in, but I will have to lift up the handle. Lift up the handle right there to sneak it in, and then try to get everything lined up and get it snapped down into place. But yeah, they're definitely a snug fit right here. Now for this, we got a lock cylinder and a cover and a screw. This lock cylinder, it's designed to be removed when this is unlocked. So you got to make sure it's in the unlocked position. And we got a little notch right here that goes right there. And then this piece goes through right there, and then it goes to a corresponding spot down at the bottom. So you got to kind of make sure, because this will move a little bit. You got to make sure that it's in the right position. And it looks like that's pretty good right there, and we should be able to just drop it into place. And it's a tight fit. And to get it out, it's the same thing. You just kind of pop it up gently. But now we're good to go. And we can peek around and make sure that that notch lined up down below, but it felt like it did. We'll go ahead and get this screw in. And hopefully you can see that that notch is lined up down below also. That's our locking mechanism, so we got to make sure that that's lined up. And we'll just snap our cover into place. Okay, for the microphone, I went ahead and mounted it right there. I just used some double stick tape, and we just got it mounted down right there. And I have the wire coming back here, and I have another piece of double stick tape that's holding it in place. You can't see it, and we should be okay when we move the steering wheel up and down. It should be all right. I have it mounted and routed in a way where it's going up under there, and then with the regular wiring harness, it's coming around over to the radio. Now, there are other places you can mount this. I've mounted them in the pockets that are over here. Just drill a little hole and mount it right there. But I found that you can't hear it very well when it's over here. Now, this thing does have a built-in microphone here, and I believe it will use both of them. But I found that when you have a secondary mic like this, it doesn't work so well over here. We could put it up here. We could probably clip it right here. But I don't want to do anything around these airbags, so I'm not going to be responsible for clipping it there. And we could put it up here on our visor, but then we're going to lose the use of the visor, and I'm not sure that that clip will go wide enough to do it. So I definitely don't like putting them on the visor. So I found that this is the best place to put them, and they work pretty well. Now, we don't have a lot of adjustment on this one. A lot of them, it's got a little ball and socket where we can move things around. This one doesn't have it, but it should work. It does have this little screen. I'll leave that on there. The owner can take that off if they want, but that little windscreen might help if you got the windows down or the AC blown or something. But that's where we're gonna leave it right now. Okay, now that we have all the wiring connected, I don't think there's any reason why we can't snap this into place. I'm just gonna make sure all the wiring is tucked up out of the way so nothing's gonna get pinched. And we should be able to just kind of snap it into place where it belongs. Let's double check, make sure it's secure. Yeah, that's clipped in good. We don't have to worry about it moving anywhere. Now, the bolts that we took out down below to remove the old factory radio, there's no provision for these aftermarket radios, at least the ones I've come across, to put them back. But the way this is secured in here, we don't have to worry about that. Let's make sure all of our buttons go in and out, and they do. These work, and that works. What you got to be careful of is sometimes this right here around these buttons can be a little too tight, and these buttons won't pop in and out, but it looks like we're good to go. Once we turn the car on, we'll make sure everything actually works. All right, we'll get our plastic cover back in place. Of course, we'll have to plug this in. Hear my phone buzzing. Must be the disgruntled mechanic calling. All right, we just make sure that it's snapped in all the way around. Looks like we're good to go. All right, we'll go ahead and put this screw back. And we'll snap this trim back into place. Come on. There we go. And I'll put this contraption back on. All right, we'll get this piece into place. I don't think I showed taking this off, but it just sits on this little rubber piece back here. I think that goes right there. And we got a couple clips and then this little knob that we have to turn. But once we get things kind of lined up. We can snap it in and turn it. Well, this thing's broke. What do you think? Should we fix this too? If we hold it down, then maybe it won't, but as soon as you hit a bump or do anything, touch it, it pops up. It's broke, needs to be fixed. I routed the USB cable and put that rubber grommet in, and then put the cover back in, so it's all snapped back into place. Now, there are two USBs that you can connect, a 4-pin and a 6-pin. I only have the 6-pin USB coming out here because that's the only thing they're going to use. But obviously, if you wanted to route the second one, you could do it. But that's how we're going to do it. It doesn't look too bad. With that rubber grommet, it won't move around too much. We'll just clean our prints off. I still have that little plastic cover on here that the owner can remove, but I'll at least clean it up for him. All right, I did a final check of everything, and everything's working. So hopefully you can hear the static. I can't play any copyrighted broadcast or anything like that. YouTube doesn't seem to like that. Our steering wheel controls work. You can see that everything works. You have to go in and have some instructions. You go in and program it. You go into the settings and you can program it, but you can assign these buttons to any controls that you like. So I just did kind of the standard channel up, channel down, volume, and then at the mode I made it go to the home screen. So everything seems to be working pretty good. We'll just do one final check, make sure everything's squared away. The fit and finish on this is pretty good. Everything lines up pretty well. Our microphone looks squared away. Our GPS unit, it's all tucked in. And let's just double check, make sure we got everything back the way it was. This all looks good. That looks good. I gave them back their old radio. Everything in the trunk looks like we're good to go. I did notice that this was popped out of the rubber, so I fixed that. And here's where I positioned the backup camera. The owner's free to adjust it if they want to, but it clears the license plate, should be good to go. Let's do one final check of the backup camera. I have an oil jug there for reference, and also we got another vehicle right here. That's about 5 feet away. Okay, looking at it, that's not too bad. And here's some of the stuff I used for this install. I did use a lot of zip ties to try to make that install a little bit cleaner. Well, that's it for this one. And as always, if the video helped you out or you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.